So once they hit the outpost, they don't kill all of the saviors that are there. Now what leads me to think that is this shot here. This seems like an ordinary shot of them marching towards war. But if you look closely, you can see that in the back, there are some people who have their hands in the front. It looks like they have their hands tied. So it seems like they don't kill all of the saviors at the outpost and they get some prisoners from there, which is very interesting. So we have what looks like to be prisoners here. We have someone that looks a lot like Jesus in the front there. We have some other members with weapons on the side, and it seems like there are actually some prisoners here. So these could be the prisoners from that outpost that they hit. And they're basically prisoners of war now, which is very interesting. But if you take a look at the front, you see there's that truck and someone is sitting in the back of the truck and they're wearing a black hoodie. I think that leads to this shot, because in this shot we have Tara and she's wearing the same kind of outfit that we saw from the person in the back of the truck, and it looks like whatever she's sitting on is moving, so that's most likely the truck. And she seems to kind of fake shoot someone in the back, and based on the previous shot, that's most likely one of the prisoners, one of the saviors. So Tara is intimidating them and kind of pretending to shoot them. So then we have this shot here. This is very important. So one thing, this is most likely one of the saviors, one of the prisoners, and you know, by the looks of it, he is trying to get out. He's trying to untie himself. So that's an important piece of clip to keep in mind. Think about this and then we'll come back to it. So then the question becomes, where are they taking the prisoners? I predict that they're taking the prisoners to the hilltop, and there's a couple of shots that prove that. In this one, we have Maggie, Eduardo, Gregory, and some other members of the hilltop. And if you take a look, Gregory is very angry, and then by the looks of everyone's expressions, it looks like they're watching people walk in. So what I think is actually happening is they're bringing these prisoners to the hilltop. So that's probably why Gregory is so angry and everybody else looks so angry / concerned. So then that takes us to this shot. So this is at the hilltop itself. This is another shot that proves that there will be some savior prisoners at the hilltop. So we have Jesus. This was a very quick shot, so I'm pretty sure most people missed it. But we have Jesus here. And if you take a look in the back, who does that look like? That's actually Jared. If you remember, the savior group that were dealing with the kingdom, Gavin was the lead, and then there was Jared as well. And that is actually Jared. If you remember the shot of the person trying to untie their rope, take a look at Jared's shirt here and the shirt of the person here, you see that this is most likely Jared. So Jared is this guy in this clip here as well. But what this tells us is that he will be taken as prisoner and taken to the hilltop, which is a very interesting piece of evidence that we can use. Then we have this quick shot of Gregory. If you take a look, it seems like he's talking to someone through the fence, and he seems to be quiet about it as well. So I think what's actually happening is that he's talking to Jared, and he's basically telling him that he doesn't want to have any part in this war and he's still loyal to Negan. We've seen he is loyal to Negan, and he's probably still loyal to Negan. So he probably tells Jared, and this takes us to this shot here. This is actually at the hilltop. We have Jared, and he's basically rubbing his hands as if someone just untied the rope that he had in his hand, and Gregory most likely did that. So I think Gregory is involved in letting Jared go, and he's going to kill someone. Why do I think that? Because of Morgan. So this takes me to my next thing. Here we have the hilltop. We have someone walking by. If you take a close look, you can see the staff. So this is definitely Morgan. So we have Morgan walking out in the middle of the night. So then we have this shot of someone setting traps. If you remember, Morgan has set these types of traps before. If you remember, in Clear and also in season 6, Here's Not Here episode. So we know that this type of trap is most likely done by Morgan. So why would Morgan set traps? He's trying to get Jared. Based on my prediction, Jared escaped. He killed someone, most likely someone very close to Morgan, maybe even Jerry. And that leads to Morgan kind of losing it and trying to go after Jared himself, setting traps and everything. That's probably when he's confronted by members of the hilltop, and he says, "I don't die," here from the trailer. So this is most likely him telling them that he doesn't die. He's confident. But then those members of the hilltop probably tell Jesus about it. And Jesus comes to Morgan and confronts him and tells him to stop and that they can find a way to find Jared so that no one ends up getting hurt. And that's probably when Morgan and Jesus go at it and they start fighting. I'm predicting that most likely things end up getting calm after that, and Morgan ends up getting his head back into the game and listening to Jesus. So then once that's going on, we have Rick and Daryl trying to hit some other outposts as well. So we have Rick and Daryl here moving into one outpost. We have Rick here inside one of the outposts, and then we have Carol also at an outpost as well. This is most likely the same outpost, but we see that they're being very quiet. But it seems like things end up going wrong, and this is most likely when Rick ends up getting into a fight with this guy here, and they end up fighting. And based on the fight, we do see that he ends up getting bruised near his left eye. And if you take a look at this shot here, he's shooting, but he has the cut or the bruise on his face. So this is most likely after the fight itself. Carol also has to get out, so this is probably related to that one. We also have Aaron shooting some saviors. This is most likely at that outpost as well. More saviors getting killed here. Aaron calling some shots and everything. So then what happens is we have these people moving in. These are probably some scavengers or even more saviors moving towards them at that outpost. It's the same location because if you take a look at the surrounding, you can tell that it's the same exact spot. Then they probably have to retreat and go back. And something probably happens to Eric because then we have Aaron being very sad here. So things probably go wrong and Eric probably ends up getting killed. So then what we probably see is Daryl and Rick going after Jared himself as well, because we do see in another mission we have Rick on a Jeep and Daryl on a bike. They're following this other Jeep. And in the other Jeep, we have two people, one in the front driving, one person in the back. So that takes us to this shot. So I think Daryl moves in with his bike and shoots the savior in the back of the Jeep. So that savior most likely gets killed because then Rick has the ability to drive up to the Jeep and jump in. If you take a look, this is an important shot here. You see there's the savior in the back. He's hunched over as if he's been shot. So this is most likely after Daryl shoots him. And, if you take a look, Rick jumps into the other Jeep, obviously. But if you take a look at the savior driving the Jeep, it looks a lot like Jared. So that leads me to think that this is most likely Jared, and this is their mission to find Jared after he has escaped. So then we have another kind of thing. I don't know exactly how this fits in. This is most likely after all of that. So what we actually see here is the junkyard community, obviously, but what's important is the person in the middle. It seems like that's Rick. So it seems like Rick has been captured by the scavengers. At this point, he's at the junkyard community and he's surrounded. If you take a look at Tamiel, she's very angry, like she's going to kill Rick or whatever. But we have Jadis raising her hand, maybe in a way to tell her that we can't kill him. He's more valuable to us if he is alive. Now, if you take a look at the back, you see the container, the yellow container. That yellow container is the exact same yellow container from here. If you take a look at this one in the back, it has a bullet hole, and that seems to be the exact bullet hole from here. Now someone is peeking through there, and if you kind of combine that with this, you can kind of tell that that's most likely Rick. So what that tells us is that Rick most likely gets captured by the scavengers at some point. Now, I don't know how this fits in with the rest, like I said, but I think most of what happens before is before Rick is captured, because Rick is there in most of the previous ones. So Rick being captured is most likely one of the last episodes that they shot and have in the trailer itself. But that's basically it for my prediction for Season 8. That's it for this video. See you next time for another super video.